called Java Spring, and I plan on making tutorials on this as I learn because there's certain issues that you just can't really look up, or like you remember your struggles the closer to when you actually make the errors and that you tinker with and you can't find the answer. And it's just so simple, and if you just found a quick YouTube video on it or something, it'd be super sweet and pretty easy for you to just kind of figure it out there. Um, yeah, so right. So basically, the frameworks that I've been really using most is Java Spring, and inside of it, I learned I've been really messing with the Hibernate, which basically is a way of communicating with the database instead of using SQL queries, which is what you normally do. You use you just basically can create a table with it, they call it magic because you don't really have to do anything with it, um, other than just create a table for it and make it an entity, uh, right? And then it also has to communicate with the service layer, which is where you do all of the business logic, where the entity is more of it looks to me as like just a model. Uh, it obviously it does create a table for your database. But yeah, I can't find another a guide that uses models. So for instance, Java Spring is an MVC framework. So um, there's a model view controller, and I see a lot of the guides only the use an entity rather than actually using a model. So I've yet to find a guide that actually uses both. So I'm still pretty interested in figuring out that one. But as you go along, you find way different ways of um, templates of implementing code. So basically, right, with service, I finally found one that's like service implementation. So service, the reason why they would actually separate the service would be, and its business logic would be, now it can actually um, service. So for instance, let's say if we are servicing a user, we also want to service users' products, right? So we'll actually access the product service implementations also with inside the user service. Yeah, inside the user service layer. So yeah, I've been really messing around with that today. So uh, that's pretty cool. Let's see what else. Um, Also with the controller, I've been really just hammering that out. What can I say? Yeah, I've been having to use user my entities to actually access the controller. Uh, when I try to change it over to a model, like what I see with other people's code, it always gives me some sort of error, and I can't figure that one out. So that's the current issue I'm stuck with. But when I use the user entity, it functions as what it should be. And by controller, I mean, the post, get, delete, update methods. But yeah, they work with the user entity. Let's see. A fuzzy concept that I'm still working on, trying to understand, would be uh, the why do certain models need three constructors, an empty constructor, one with an ID and one without a ID. Still don't really get that. Auto wired was pretty cool, cause now you could just connect your services or connect whatever to make sure that it is the actual unit that you're connecting to. So for instance, the most common one would be the controller with the services. You call the you make a controller, you make a service, and then you call it with auto wired to make sure that it's the actual service that you're using instead of a entirely new service or anything like that. So yeah, let's see what else. So yeah, I've just been basically studying the Java Spring like in and out. So when I finally get some sort of a assignment, I'll be 100% ready for it. What else though? Uh, I just started looking into JPA security, so it's pretty cool that you automatically it asks you to, once you don't do anything, you don't even say which route that you want to make only authorized to certain users, but right out of the box you just plug it in as a dependency, and it already becomes what you already doesn't allow you to access the routes without entering a password, which they give you inside the terminal, or the console rather. Um, so yeah, really cool stuff that's going on here. Uh, I really like a lot of this stuff's like built-in framework, so I imagine it to be pretty quick once you get the hang of it. You don't have to mess around with even SQL queries if you don't want to. It looks like there's an SQL query command, but it's not just nice to have that. Now transactional seems to be pretty nice too. For instance, you can talk directly to the that one I don't think I have a solid understanding of, but I remember using it for the update service of the implementation layer, where you in order to talk to the database and give its information back and forth properly, uh, you just put transactional in front of it, which is pretty sweet. And another cool thing would be transient. For instance, in the course that I remember from, they were doing date of birth and generating the age automatically, and he didn't want to make it a table in his entity, so he decided to instead put transient in front of the variable's name in his entity class. So therefore, he can still have that entity as a value of the entity table, but it doesn't go inside his database. So that was pretty sweet. Instead, it was generated by just him doing date of some sort of period between, and then today's date and the date of birth. So yeah, I definitely want to. I think that the best way of sort of relaxing the mind and sort of going over all the information would be to, well, to try to teach it in some sort of manner, and maybe you could help a couple of people out while doing it. And not only that, like when you try to teach something, or whenever you even like something like writing a journal, especially something like writing a journal, you're basically trying to bring together everything that's floating around in your mind and try to organize it in a thought process, and that's definitely evident with also just speaking it. uh, so yeah, that's what I plan to do as this course goes on. Hopefully my other mic comes in, and I can't wait for this.